So the movie kicks off with this woman who's crawling her way out of a haunted hotel. It looks like something's after her, and just when you think she's gonna make it, this creepy creature shows up out of nowhere. Days later, we meet Diane, an Instagram content creator, and she is super pumped to tell her followers about her latest adventure. Today, she and her friends plan to jump off a moving train. Her boyfriend Rick is right there with her, hyping up their followers to stick around for the action. They sneak onto the platform dressed as cleaners, and soon enough, the rest of the friends' crew join them. Inside the train, one of their friends named JD is already hiding in a dumpster like it's no big deal. Then a random passenger hops in and sits down, but Diane and her friends completely ignore her and carry on with their adventure. They strip off their gear and without a second thought, leap off the train at the expense of their lives. After their wild jump, they try to sneak into this building but find the door is locked. Cora gets a little extra and literally lunges at the wall to open it from the inside. They all slip in and find themselves in an area called Basquiat. Rick immediately starts taking charge, saying they should document everything, but warns everyone not to touch anything nearby. Vern starts snapping pictures of the graffiti, and JD gets this greedy idea to tear down a piece of the wall, thinking it's worth a fortune. Vern tells him not to, but he just ignores him and keeps wrecking it. Tensions rise, and Rick ends up in a fight with JD, but their friends jump in to break it up. Rick kicks JD out of their group and tells him to leave at once. Then, out of nowhere, Cora hears the guards coming, and they all manage to sneak out just in time. Later, Diane posts their video on Instagram, and it's a total flop, only getting 82 views in a whole day. This ignorance from the Instagram algorithm leaves everyone dejected. So now they're all sitting around wondering how they can blow up their channel. Rick hits upon an idea and hands Diane a blueprint of Hotel Paragon. He brings up that the place is totally abandoned. He's done some serious digging into its history too. Apparently, this old hotel is where the infamous gangster Meyer Lansky allegedly hid away his missing $300 million. A ton of people have tried to find that cash, but none of them ever came back. There are all these creepy urban legends about the place, saying it's haunted or something, and that it's just not friendly to visitors. So Vern throws out this wild idea that maybe they could stumble across Lansky's hidden treasure and get rich. But Rick puts the brakes on that, reminding everyone that they have a code. Just document what they find and get out. Even though some of them aren't super on board, they agree to stick with the plan. Meanwhile, Diane gets a notification on Instagram from JD. It turns out he's joined up with their rival group called Scavenger. They're led by this total nutcase named Todd, especially since JD got kicked out of their group. Todd pulls this ridiculous stunt where he loads a bullet into a revolver and tries to shoot himself. Thankfully, it doesn't go off, but man, that was nerve-wracking to watch. So to mess with JD a little, she sends him a sneaky message saying they're headed to the Paragon. Just as they're getting ready to roll out for their new adventure, there's a knock on the door. Rick goes to check it out and finds this tough-looking dude standing there. Cora comes over and welcomes Frank, letting everyone know she invited him. Everyone stares at Frank, totally confused because they've never met him. Vern speaks up and asks what brings him there. Frank introduces himself, saying he's Frank Ballinger from Vice News and he's come to check out the Paragon, which no one has ever successfully done. Rick steps up and asks how he even knows about the Paragon. That's when Frank drops the bombshell that he saw Diane's post, leaving everyone stunned since Diane had kept that under wraps. Diane kind of apologizes to her friends for spilling the beans. Then Rick turns to the group, asking if they should let Frank tag along. Everyone kinda shrugs and agrees, even though they're a bit hesitant. After a quick intro, they all climb into the van and head to the Paragon. Before long, they pull up to the spot. Diane takes charge and breaks open a restricted door, making it easier for everyone to sneak in. They wander into these creepy tunnels, thinking to create some killer content for their Instagram. Rick hands Frank a helmet that has some weird design on it, and even though he looks a bit ridiculous, he just puts it on and goes with it. At one point, they find a bunch of sewer tunnels leading to the Paragon. They pick one and squeeze through, but then they hear a squeaky noise coming closer. Suddenly, a whole swarm of rats comes darting past them. Frank covers Cora, helping her. They barely manage to get out of the way as the little critters scurry over them. So they crawl out of the sewer and bump into this barrier, blocking their way. Dane decides to hunt down some kind of tool to help them out. While she's off doing that, Cora grabs a cutter and manages to break the lock, opening things up. They finally step inside the Paragon, but it's pitch dark. Dane figures she might as well go live on Instagram to let her followers in on this spooky adventure. Meanwhile, Rick, Vern, and Cora start snapping pics of the creepy spot. Out of nowhere, a huge chandelier comes crashing down towards Cora and she barely dodges it. On a different part of the Paragon, Dane is wandering around, continuing her live stream from this eerie place. She stumbles upon a piano and sees some fancy ball stuff lying around. Just when things seem quiet, she hears a rattling noise that totally freaks her out. She bolts out of the hall, trips, and lands right on the floor, but her Instagram live is still rolling. Then, as if things weren't tense enough, a ghostly figure shows up behind her and the screen goes black. Back with Rick, he's starting to panic because Dane isn't answering his calls. Cora tells him to chill, thinking Dane's just messing with him, but Rick isn't buying it. He heads off to find her. Meanwhile, Cora thanks Frank for having her back in the sewer. She notices his wedding ring and asks about his wife's name. Frank tells her it's Amanda and even pulls out a picture of her on his phone. Meanwhile, Vern is still busy taking pictures of the spooky surroundings. He spots this wall covered in these creepy claw marks and he's totally taken aback. While he snaps a few pics, he has the feeling that someone watching him from the shadows. But when he looks around, there's nobody there. Later, he shows Rick and the others the photos of the claws, and you can feel the tension rising. It freaks everyone out. Rick suggests they should find Diane and get the heck out of this place, so they all split up to look for Diane. Cora, not really taking things seriously, pokes fun at the claw marks and thinks everyone's overreacting. As they're searching for Diane, Vern and Cora stumble across this old newspaper. Turns out, the owner of the Paragon went missing after his wife was murdered. It's rumored that the poor woman's chest was all messed up and her heart was taken out. Meanwhile, Rick steps right into a bear trap and is in serious pain. Frank rushes over to help him out of it. When Vern and Cora hear Rick scream, they come running, thinking Frank did something to him. In a burst of panic, Vern shoves Frank against the wall, but Frank quickly explains he's just trying to help. They see Rick's foot is pretty badly injured. Vern can't believe someone would even put a bear trap in a hotel. To keep Rick's injury from getting infected, Frank pours some alcohol over the cut and it's brutal for Rick. Just when things seem chaotic enough, they all hear Diane's phone ringing from upstairs. Vern helps Rick up and they all head upstairs with the rest of the crew. When they get there, they're completely shocked to see a bunch of phones hanging from a tree. It hits them that a lot of people must have been there before them. Rick spots Diane's phone in the middle of all that chaos. They pull up the video on the phone and things take a dark turn. It shows Diane running away from something really terrifying before she went missing. Suddenly, loud thuds start echoing through the hallway and Frank's all like, "We gotta move and keep it quiet." As they search for Diane, they run into JD and Frank gets all intense, holding him at gunpoint. Out of nowhere, Todd and his buddies jump in, taking Frank down hard. Now they've got everyone kneeling on the floor while Todd starts demanding Lansky's money, but Rick isn't backing down and is more concerned about Diane. Frank turns to Cora asking who these guys are. Cora spills the beans, saying they're scumbags. Todd flips out at that, giving Cora a fierce look, but JD tries to play peacemaker, telling Todd he's going too far. Todd just yells over him. Frank, trying to rattle Todd, sarcastically asks if he even knows how to pull the trigger, which just fuels Todd's anger more. Todd turns to Frank, wanting to know what he is doing there. That's when Frank opens up for the first time, saying he's there for his wife who vanished a couple of months ago. This revelation catches everyone off guard since Frank had never shared that with Rick or anyone else. He explains that his wife was a reporter and she disappeared in this hotel while making a story about the owner of Paragon. He went to the cops for help, but they totally blew him off. Then there's this wild moment where Cora spits right in Todd's face, which makes him whip out a handkerchief which belongs to Diane. Rick notices it and inquires about Diane. Todd gets all aggressive, goes after Rick and tosses him from upstairs. JD advances and tells Todd that's not in the plan, which only triggers Todd to slap him and tell him to shut his mouth. After that, Todd takes Cora hostage and starts asking Frank and Vern where Meyer Lansky's money is hidden. Frank tries to explain that Rick is dead and he was the only one who knew where the cash was. So Todd, feeling all tough, grabs Frank, Cora, and Vern at gunpoint and drags them downstairs to find Rick. Eventually, they stumble on a body near this huge hole in the floor. Cora, being all agile, jumps over to check it out but freaks out when she realizes it's not Rick, it's some decades-old corpse. She calls out to Todd, saying it's not Rick. Todd, not wanting to hear it, ditches Cora on her side of the hole and goes off searching for Rick while keeping Frank and Vern at gunpoint. But of course, JD isn't on board with this whole situation. Vern whispers to him saying that that's not him and he needs to help them. Just then they hear this moaning coming from another room. Vern takes a chance, opens the door and heads inside, but all he finds is a lonely cupboard. So there's this cupboard that totally reminds Mac of the one from the Narnia movie. He opens it and finds no one inside, but then out pops this woman and it's Bate, a friend of Frank's wife Amanda. She's freaking out. Frank asks her where Amanda is. Just then they hear a weird noise on the roof. Amanda tells them it's coming. Meanwhile, Todd and his buddies are wearing night vision goggles and checking things out. Just when they think it's all good, something jumps out and brutally takes out JD. It all happens so fast. Then this creepy white hairless creature shows up and everyone goes into panic mode. Todd starts shooting randomly, but the creature manages to slip away through a hole in the ceiling. Vern is totally heartbroken about JD because they were friends. Over on the other side, Diane wakes up and realizes she's in this dimly lit hall with candles around a spooky circle. She bolts for the door, but it's locked tight. While she's trying to figure out an escape, Cora walks into a room and to her surprise, the door slams shut on its own. A bit later, Rick surprises Cora by popping out from under a bed. He tells her to hide quickly because something is coming. He ducks back under the bed and Cora scrambles into the cupboard. A few moments later, that creepy creature comes into the room hunting for both of them. Cora can see it from her hiding spot through the blinds and is totally on edge. So the creature can hear Cora's heavy breathing and starts inching toward the cupboard. He swings the door open, but it's empty while Cora's actually clinging to the ceiling of the cupboard, trying to stay out of sight. Just when it looks like the creature, about to find her, Rick comes charging in and distracts it, giving Cora a chance to bolt. She makes a run for the elevator, but of course the creature is hot on his heels and grabs her. But she's quick and manages to wriggle out of his grasp. In a total panic, she rushes downstairs, looking for a place to hide. She ducks into the hotel's control room and spots all these camera feeds showing different parts of the hotel. Then something catches her eye on one of the screens, a woman tied to a chair. So there's this moment where Diane pops up on one of the screens and she's totally trapped in this room. While she's figuring things out, she stumbles across this old book. Then Cora comes in and decides to play a videotape she found there. Just as the tape starts rolling, a creepy shadowy figure appears on screen and starts spilling some wild secrets about the cursed book. Apparently this thing isn't just some random book, it's a tool which gives you insane power. Meanwhile, Mac and Todd sneak into another room and find a stash of cash that belongs to Lansky. Todd's eyes light up with greed and he starts cramming money into his bag, but then Mac discovers a skeleton on the floor that's missing its heart. The man on the tape explains how his wife didn't get it, which forced him to do something really brutal. Turns out this guy is the owner of the Paragon. He goes on about how if you eat a mortal's sacred heart, you get this insane supernatural strength. Back to Mac, he's starting to freak out and leaves Todd behind. As he bolts down the stairs, he trips over a wire which slits his throat. After swiping all the cash, Todd turns around and he gets jumped by the owner of the Paragon, who's now some sort of monster. In a horrifying twist, the beast rips Todd's heart out right then and there. Now it's pretty clear that this creature is definitely the owner of the Paragon. In the meantime, Diane's got the book in her hands, and as she reads, she discovers that the final transformation from man to beast happens when the Dark Lord is offered two souls that want to be together for all eternity. So Diane is flipping through this book when she spots a wedding dress draped over a nearby recliner. That's when it hits her, the beast wants to marry her to become the ultimate evil guy. Just then, the beast pops up in the room and totally freaks her out. Meanwhile, Vern and Frank are downstairs and they hear Cora calling out to them. They freak out and almost trip over a wire on the floor. That's when they come across Mac's body, and yeah, it's pretty grim, no heart in his chest and all. Out of nowhere, Cora comes through on the radio, telling them to make a run for it because the beast is heading their way. They sprint into the kitchen while Cora tries to help from the control room. She's doing her best to guide them to safety, but there's a snag. The elevator's totally out of order, so they have to pull it up manually to get to the next floor. Before Vern heads upstairs, Frank takes a moment to apologize to him for not being upfront about his wife. Meanwhile, the beast is pounding on the door trying to get in. Vern barely makes it upstairs, but then Frank jumps in the elevator and starts pulling on the rope to get to the next level. He glances through a hole and sees the beast trying to zero in on him. In a panic, he tells Vern to cut the cable right then and there. Just as the beast is about to get its claws on Frank, Vern yanks the cable, and the elevator crashes down with the creature. Cora, Frank, and Vern let out a huge sigh of relief. Cora tells Frank that they've spotted someone on the 9th floor. So following the instruction, he heads up there and kicks the door open. What he sees inside hits him hard. It's his wife Amanda with her chest exposed and no heart. The woman he'd been desperately searching for is just gone right in front of him. With tears in his eyes, he takes off his jacket and covers her up, saying his goodbyes. After that heartbreaking moment, Frank heads back to the control room and he's fueled by one thing: he's out for revenge on that monster. He walks up to Cora and asks about Rick. She tells him Rick didn't make it while trying to save her. They quickly decide they need to rescue Diane, who's still trapped somewhere in a room. Suddenly, Frank glances at the monitor and sees the creature. Anger and vengeance burn inside him. Without saying a word, he storms out of the control room. Meanwhile, Diane is in another room, decked out like a bride, waiting for the creature to show up. When the creature finally arrives, he gently lays a hand on her. Diane seizes the moment and punches him right in the face, then bolts for the door. But he's quick and catches up to her. Just when things look bleak, Frank comes crashing in, tackling the creature and slamming him against a tree branch. But in that fierce act, Frank pays the ultimate price. Diane breaks down after losing another friend. She grabs the radio and reaches out to Cora and Vern, asking about Rick. Cora tells her that Rick sacrificed himself while saving her from the monster. That hits Diane hard. She's got to know where Rick was last seen. Cora says it was on the 3rd floor, so Diane hurries over and finds Rick just lying there in a room. It's heartbreaking. She's pleading with him to wake up, and then out of nowhere, he starts to come back to life. Before long, Cora and Vern show up, and they're all back together, relieved and happy. They manage to escape Paragon with a load of Lansky's stash, and then they can't resist sharing their big win on Instagram. It blows up, getting millions of views. To wrap it all up, they take a moment to remember Frank before gearing up for their next big adventure. And that's how the movie wraps up.